Hi guys, my name is Victory Osarumense. Welcome to Financial Jaga Jaga. So this week I'm just going to be gisting you guys about the revised 2020 budget that people have been talking about since like Wednesday. And I mean, if you're like me, you might be wondering, why are we talking about 2020 budget in 2020? Like, I don't understand what's going on. So just back to the basics. What's a budget? A budget is typically your planned revenues versus your planned expenses. So if someone should ask me, Victory, how much do you expect to get next month? I'm like, I expect to get 5 million naira. And then they're like, oh cool, okay, how much do you expect to spend next month? I'm like, I expect to spend 3 million naira. That's good, because that means I have a budget surplus, because my revenue 5 million is more than my expenses 3 million. But in a situation where I'm expecting to get 5 million and my expenses is 8 million, that's a deficit, because I mean, my expenses is more than the revenue, and that's bad. Now, for most developing countries like Nigeria, there's almost always a deficit. And why is that? I mean, you're a developing country, your goal is to become developed. So it means that you plan to do a lot of projects, you plan to build roads, build schools, build hospitals, and all of these things you need to do will cost money. So typically your expenditure line will be bigger, way bigger than your revenue line, because I mean, even if you're receiving, you have a steady stream of income. Your dreams are big, like your dreams are big, and those your money, the revenue will not be able to fund it. So typically that's why there's always a deficit. And for developing countries, the way they fund their deficit typically is to, take loans from development banks, maybe IMF, for example, World Bank, and things like that. Sometimes they take bilateral loans that, cost more. So, let me just speak quickly to the budgeting process in Nigeria. So in Nigeria, for the budget to even become a budget, an approved budget that is now implemented, it's not a one-man decision, right? The president has to present the budget, which he sits down and drafts based on information, Minister of Finance, all of those things. He sits down, he drafts it, and he presents it to the National Assembly. When the House of Reps, House of Senate look at it and approve what he has given them, it becomes an appropriation bill, right? And then once they give him that appropriation bill back and he looks at it and he says, okay, because sometimes they may change some things, he gives them a 10.5 trillion budget, they may increase it, they may reduce it, right? So when they give it back to him, the president, and he looks at it and he approves it, it becomes a real budget and you can implement it at that point. So to the question of why are we talking about budget by this time, so guys, calm down. In November, December last year, the president already approved a budget. It was a 10.5 trillion naira budget. By that, I mean our expenses. So when I say is it this budget, is it that budget, I'm talking about the expenses line. So the expenses was like 10.5 trillion naira, and it was approved. In that budget, they budgeted that we'll be selling our crude oil at $57 per barrel. Remember, a budget is revenue versus expenses, so that was that. However, when the year started, let's roll out, let's implement, let's do all of these things we wrote down. COVID-19 happened. Crude oil price crashed. Now, on Nigeria's budget, the major revenue lines, so there are three major lines for revenue. There's oil revenue, there's non-oil revenue, and then there's independent revenue. For oil revenue, like when we sell our crude oil, basically. For non-oil revenue is basically taxes, and then independent revenue is neither, like, anything other than taxes and oil revenue. So I mean, we expected to sell our crude oil at $57 per barrel. COVID-19 has happened. People have stopped buying crude oil because there's lockdown, planes are not flying, everybody's inside the house. Crude oil has crashed. We're talking about crashing from $57 to like 20 something dollar per barrel now. Guy, that no go make sense again though. So I mean, at that point in time, people start saying, we have to be realistic. Let's sit down, let's look at this budget again. It's not workable, it's not this. And initially, with the budgets they approved in December, there was a 2.2 trillion deficit, meaning our expenses were bigger than our revenue by 2.2 trillion. But imagine we already had a deficit, and one of our major source of income is oil. Based on COVID-19 and all, the revenue is not even sure like that again. Like, it's even reduced. So they had to sit down. I think sometime in April they sat down and then they revised some things. But one of the major things they changed was that they reduced that $57 per barrel they projected to $30 per barrel. They're like, you know what, let's reduce this from 57 to $30 per barrel. It will not be that bad. Let's just keep it like that. Another thing was that they reduced the expenses by like 300. However, the deficit had widened from 2.2 trillion to like 5.3 trillion, and then it just became, how are we going to finance this? That's when issues of, oh, let's borrow, let's apply for loan, all of those things came up. And so, speaking to the matter of the day, right, we can see that things have changed. Like, a lot of things have happened, and so there's been a need to now have like a revised 2020 budget, in which you have to consider so many things. Like, for example, you need to put something in the budget that will talk about how much are you going to spend to fight COVID-19 in Nigeria. You need to do some things. So based on that, the president presented a revised budget to the House of Rep, and in this new budget, they had even sliced the benchmark price of, okay, they revised it before, and crude oil was benchmarked at $30 per barrel, that they will sell crude oil at $30 per barrel. But with this new one, he reduced it to $25 per barrel, and then he also included the COVID-19, 500 billion to fight COVID-19 in the budget, and he gave it to House of Reps. They looked at it and they increased it they increased it to 10.8 trillion. So he gave them a 10.5 trillion budget, and they increased it. So some of the changes in the budget, some of the major things to look out for in this new budget, I'll just like state it. For example, there's a 2.9 trillion set aside for debt servicing. Like, our total expenses is 10.8 trillion. Out of it, 2.9 trillion is debt servicing. You are paying interest, you are paying back your money that you borrowed. So that is like 27% of the expenses itself. There's like a 2.549 trillion for capital expenses. That is your building roads, building schools, and all of that. Then there's a 4.94 trillion for recurrent expenses, which is payment of salaries, things that you have to do like year on year. You keep doing those things. Another major thing is that there's the 500 billion COVID-19 fund I already mentioned, and then 186 billion for the health sector. So basically, House of Rep approved it, and it's now a 10, but they increased it from 10.5 to 10.8, gave it to House of the Senate on Thursday. They've approved it and they've given it back to the president. So we'll just keep looking. If the president looks at it and is okay with the adjustment they've made. Another key thing they made, sorry, I forgot to mention, is the fact that they increased the benchmark from $25 per barrel to $28 per barrel. So Buhari reduced it to $25 per barrel, gave it to them. They increased it to $28 per barrel. So it means that they believe that things will not be that bad, that, oh yeah, like, things are picking up already. And I actually agree. Like, if you look at it, crude oil has started increasing in this month, and even towards the end of last month, there was like a steady rise in crude oil because some countries are beginning to open up again. People are beginning to do things again. So I mean, the entire purpose of this video is just to make the situation clear to somebody. Feel free to share. Like, I'll really appreciate if you share this video, if you leave a comment, engage me, indulge me. I mean, we're all learning this together. Share with a friend. I mean, the aim is financial literacy. We all need to know all of these things and be informed. Thanks for watching till the end. This is Financial Jaga Jaga. My name remains Victory Osarumense. Bye. Subscribe, subscribe and share. Lots of love. Have a beautiful week.